What if your greatest strength was hidden inside your deepest suffering? What if standing alone, misunderstood, even mocked, was the price of becoming your truest self? Welcome to Guide to Reads, where today we open the fierce and unapologetic final testimony of Friedrich Nietzsche, Ecce Homo, written just before his mind gave way to madness. But this is no ordinary autobiography. It's a reckoning, a philosophical firestorm, and an invitation to confront the masks we wear and the truths we're too afraid to say. In this bold self-portrait, Nietzsche argues that illness, pain, and solitude aren't curses, they're crucibles. They refine the soul, they sharpen insight, they teach us how to see. Today, we dive into how physical health fuels mental brilliance, why morality is often a cover for weakness, and how the courage to question everything, especially yourself, can be the beginning of true freedom. Are you ready to think dangerously? Let's begin. 1. Illness as strength. Imagine a body weakened, confined to bed, stripped of its usual vigor, a condition most would see only as loss, a battle to be won quickly and forgotten. Yet what if this very weakness, this suffering, holds a secret door? A door to wisdom not reachable in moments of health and bustling life. Nietzsche himself found that in the depths of his own illness, when his eyes refused to read and his body throbbed with relentless pain, his mind turned inward like a rare flower blooming in winter's frost. Months of solitude forced him to shed trivial distractions and face the soul's quietest corners. It was in this forced retreat that his greatest philosophical revelations began to take shape. During agonizing headaches that gripped him for days, accompanied by violent nausea, Nietzsche experienced what he called a most singular dialectical clearness, a razor-sharp clarity of thought that no comfort could bring. In the midst of suffering, in absolutely cold blood, his mind worked through delicate, subtle ideas that his healthier self could never have grasped. This strange alchemy of pain and insight gave birth to some of the deepest foundations of his philosophy. Illness, then, is not merely a curse. It is a crucible, a test of the spirit's instinct for survival and the truth of one's character. Nietzsche observed that a healthy nature instinctively seeks healing. A decadent one leans toward harm. His own recovery was no accident, but a triumph of discipline, choosing solitude, rejecting pampering, embracing rigorous routines. His illness became his tutor, teaching patience, self-observation, and the profound art of finding meaning within suffering itself. This lesson holds a universal truth. True strength sometimes wears the guise of weakness. Those who navigate the dark corridors of illness often emerge with a resilience, a wisdom, and a gratitude for life's fragile beauty that others may never know. The time spent in frailty is not lost. It is preparation, a quiet forging of the self. And the act of healing, slow, demanding, uncertain, builds a deep confidence in one's ability to renew, to begin again. So, if you find yourself in the shadow of pain or trial, remember, the soul may be sharpening its vision, even when the body feels broken. In that hidden space, strength is born. Body-mind connection. Have you ever wondered how the very air you breathe, the food you eat, and the place you call home shape the sharpness of your mind? It's a truth often overlooked, that genius does not bloom in any soil, but only in the right climate, both outside and within. Nietzsche, through bitter personal trial, learned to read the subtle language of his own body like a weathered map. From the humid plains between Turin and Milan to the chilly cities of Naumburg and Leipzig, he discovered a painful secret. His early years were spent in climates hostile to his true potential. It was as if his spirit had been caged, not by fate or intellect, but by the invisible weight of unsuitable air and land. Even the humblest disturbance, a sluggish stomach, a troubled digestion, could dull the brightest mind. The climate of Germany alone, Nietzsche lamented, is enough to discourage even the strongest intestines. Throughout history, great centers of thought, Paris, Florence, Athens, Jerusalem, share a gift: dry, clear air that breathes wit, subtlety, and mental agility into their inhabitants. Food, too, is no mere comfort or ritual. It is a pillar of thought itself. German cooking, with its heavy stews and overcooked meals, became for Nietzsche a symbol of intellectual decay. He traced the roots of his early pessimism to the kitchen table, where poor digestion sapped his very will to live. Soups before meals, boiled meats, pastries turned to paperweights, combined with bestial drinking habits, wrought havoc on his body and mind. For Nietzsche, German intellect is indigestion, it can assimilate nothing. Even a single glass of wine or beer could plunge him into what he called a valley of tears. He learned to honor his own stomach's limits, seeking nourishment not as a burden but as a vital support for the mind's delicate dance. Regions like Piedmont, with their lighter, more mindful cooking, offered a cuisine that nurtured rather than hindered thought. From these painful lessons, Nietzsche distilled a harsh truth. All prejudices take their origin in the intestines. A sedentary life, poor diet, and wrong environment do not just weaken the body. They cripple the spirit and cloud the intellect. This is why so many minds, bright by nature, remain trapped, never freed by the right conditions to soar. The secret to unlocking genius is not only in books or ideas, but in mastering the physical world that sustains us. When you learn to listen to your body, honor your needs, and choose your surroundings wisely, you open doors to mental treasures hidden from those who ignore these truths. In this quiet harmony between body and mind lies the birthplace of brilliance. 3. Wisdom through duality. Most of us live our lives seeing through a single lens, either from the heights of strength or the depths of weakness. But what if this narrow view blinds us to the full spectrum of what it means to be human? To know only one side is to hold half a map and wander lost in the complexity of existence. Nietzsche stood at a rare crossroads. At 36, the age his father passed, he sank to his lowest vitality, wrestling with profound weakness, yet beneath it all his constitution remained sound. This duality, both decadent and robust, became his secret window into the hidden workings of the soul. He felt the slow decay of sickness from within, observing with the precision of a scientist how weakness distorts judgment and reshapes values. Yet, unlike those swallowed by decline, he retained the instinct to heal, to choose remedies that restored rather than destroyed. Through this tension, Nietzsche gained a perspective inaccessible to those bound to only one side of life's struggle. From the viewpoint of frailty, the world favors ideals like self-sacrifice, humility, and denial of natural instincts. A world where ambition breeds suspicion and restraint is virtue. But from the vantage of growth and vitality, a different vision emerges. Courage, expansion, the bold affirmation of life's drives and desires. Neither side alone can claim the whole truth. True wisdom arises when one learns to navigate between these worlds, choosing which lens serves best at any moment, rather than being trapped in a rigid, one-dimensional frame. This dual vision is essential when we confront morality and culture. Traditional moral codes often echo the voice of decline, promoting values that tame and diminish human potential rather than nurture it. To see this is not to reject morality, but to refine it, to bring flexibility and depth, to embrace complexity rather than simple answers. In the dance between strength and weakness, between decay and renewal, lies a fuller understanding of life's rich tapestry. And it is this balance, this ability to hold contradictions and move fluidly between them, that lights the path toward genuine freedom and wisdom. 4. Critique of morality. For millennia, humanity has been told that the highest virtues are those of selflessness, humility, and renunciation. Yet, beneath this surface lies a profound misunderstanding, a reversal of life's natural wisdom. Every living being, at its core, fights for survival and growth. To cherish oneself, to protect one's own vitality, is not a moral failing. It is biological truth. But traditional morality, shaped by centuries of Christian thought, teaches otherwise. It scorns the body, brands self-love as sin, and demands the suppression of the personal element as the path to spiritual greatness. This moral code turns instinct into shame and health into guilt. The very idea of sin was crafted to confuse our natural drives, making self-preservation a source of torment. Instead of strength, it offers salvation, a restless pendulum swinging between guilt's convulsions and redemption's hysteria, draining life rather than nourishing it. Those who built these moral systems were themselves caught in decline. Priests, theologians, and philosophers, all decadents, transformed their own weakness into universal law. They wielded Christian morality as a weapon to control the strong and healthy, turning personal failure into a creed imposed on all. The good man under this code depends on illusion, refusing to confront life's harsh realities, the raw, the terrible, the demanding. This morality of self-negation transforms the whisper of, "I am going to the dogs," into a commandment. Ye shall all go to the dogs. It is the revenge of the failed upon the successful. The result is a world turned upside down, where weakness is exalted as virtue and strength condemned as sin. A culture that suppresses human flourishing by teaching us to despise the very qualities needed to thrive. But once we recognize this inversion, we reclaim our power to choose, to embrace values that energize, that build life's momentum, and to question those that drain and diminish. This is no easy path. It demands courage to see beyond tradition, to question sacred truths, and to affirm life's strength in all its fierce, unruly glory. 5. Intellectual courage. How often do we mistake repetition for thinking? Most intellectual life is a dance of echoes, responding to others' ideas rather than creating new ones. True thought demands something far rarer: the courage to risk being wrong, to face misunderstanding, even rejection. This courage is the silent price of originality. Many scholars become prisoners of reaction, sifting through countless books, endlessly affirming or denying ideas not their own. By 30, their creative spark is often burned out, minds read to ruins, like matches worn thin by constant rubbing. Ironically, the hours meant for fresh insight, the quiet dawn, become a battleground filled with voices not their own, choking the birth of original thought. This intellectual contamination dulls the instinct for self-preservation. One would think minds would defend themselves, but many do not. True philosophy is a journey into forbidden lands, cold peaks and icy abysses where accepted truths fade and morality's bands are left behind. Nietzsche described it as a voluntary retirement into regions of ice and mountain peaks, a seeking out of all that society forbids, all that unsettles. Most shy away from this path, for it threatens the security of familiar beliefs. To question the foundations of truth, morality, and human nature is to unsettle the soul itself. Nitimur in vetitum, we strive for the forbidden, becomes a bold motto for those who dare to think freely. Yet intellectual courage is not only a matter of thought, but also of solitude. The original thinker often walks alone, bearing the weight of ideas years ahead of their time. It demands a resilience beyond reason, an unshakable trust in the vision, even as the world looks away. This is the heart of intellectual freedom: to value truth above acceptance, to stand firm when the crowd turns silent or hostile, and to kindle a light that others have not yet seen. 6. Solitude discipline. To find the truth of who we are, sometimes we must step away, deliberately, courageously, from the clamoring voices of the world. Most never meet themselves fully because they remain caught in a tide of others' expectations, opinions, and endless distractions. Nietzsche knew this well. In his most fertile creative moments, he withdrew completely, refusing comfort or care that might dull his senses. His solitude was not luxury, but necessity. The silence needed to hear his own voice rise above the rabble. From this sacred isolation was born Thus Spoke Zarathustra, a hymn to solitude itself, a dithyramb in honor of purity. Even fleeting contact with lesser minds threatened to cloud his clarity for days, reminding him how precious the space of true solitude is. But solitude alone is not enough. It demands discipline. Nietzsche treated himself as a delicate instrument, finely tuning his body and environment with scientific care. He chose his climates like a connoisseur selects wine, refused alcohol entirely, and guarded his daily routines with the vigilance of an artist protecting their canvas. This was no mere obsession. It was strategic self-mastery. To live as a project, carefully cultivated, rather than drifting at chance's mercy. In this blend of solitude and discipline, the door to authentic self-discovery opens. Freed from distraction and external validation, the soul faces itself honestly, its light and its shadow alike. This truth can be unsettling, for social masks fall away, revealing parts we often hide even from ourselves. Yet, it is only here, in this fearless confrontation, that unique strengths emerge, ready to be shaped and magnified. Solitude is not exile, but a necessary retreat, a temporary sanctuary where creation is born and the self is made whole. Final summary. Nietzsche's Ecce Homo is more than a memoir. It's a philosophical provocation, a radical declaration of selfhood forged through pain, solitude, and relentless questioning. He invites us not to admire him, but to confront ourselves. To ask, what masks do we wear? What comforts keep us weak? What truths are we too afraid to live? Through illness, he found clarity. Through solitude, he found strength. And through discipline, he shaped a life not of ease, but of purpose. Nietzsche's legacy is not in the answers he gave, but in the fire he lit under every lazy assumption and borrowed belief. So as we close this episode, remember, your suffering might be your signal, your solitude, your sanctuary, and your discipline, the forge where your truest self takes shape. Thank you for listening to Guide to Reads, where books are not just read, they're lived. If this episode sparked something in you, share it with a friend, leave a review, and subscribe for more bold journeys into the minds of history's most fearless thinkers. Until next time, think deeply, live boldly.